All right, here we go. Day 3, exponent rules. We're first going to look at negative exponents. So the rule, if we have x to the negative m, what you're going to do when you see a negative exponent is you're going to do the reciprocal. So if we take x and we flip it, we're going to have 1 over x, and then you make the exponent positive. So that's what we're going to do. Whenever we see a negative exponent, we're going to do the reciprocal, which means to flip. So number 1, 2 to the negative 3. So we're going to flip the 2, make the exponent positive. And then we're going to evaluate it. What is 2 to the third? Right, 8. So that is the answer. Now you can do 2 to the negative 3 on your calculator to check it. But the problem is in a second when we go to do variables. So look at number 2, same thing. Negative exponent, flip our fraction. So now we have 4/3 to the second. And then to evaluate it, it's kind of like power to a power because it's 4 to the first power. So it's 4 squared over 3 squared, which equals what? 16 over 9. So that's your answer. And once again, you can type that into your calculator to check it. Now, we're going to express with positive exponents. Now, this is where you have to know the rule, because now we have variables, so your calculators won't do it. So you have x to the negative 2 to the 4th power. What is our rule when we have a power to a power? Correct, we're going to multiply. So it's going to be x to the negative 8. Now it says with a positive exponent. So when we see a negative exponent, what do? We flip it. So 1 over x to the 8 when we make the exponent positive. Now let's look at number 4. We have a division. That line means divide. So what is our rule when we divide? What do we do with exponents? Right, we subtract them. So negative 2 minus 4. Well, what is negative 2 minus 4? Negative 6. Now rewrite it as a positive exponent. When we see a negative exponent, what do? We flip it and write it with a positive exponent. Good. Let's try a couple more. Same thing. Number 5, we're dividing. So we're going to look at our numbers first. 36 divided by 27. Can we do that evenly? No. So let's just reduce it. What number can go into 36 and 27? Correct, 9. So it's going to reduce down to 4/3. Now same thing with exponents. We are going to subtract them. So negative 1 minus 2 gives me what? A to the negative 3. Then do the b's. Be careful with the b's because it's 5 minus a negative 3. Don't lose that minus. So it's b to the what? 8th. Now they want you to rewrite it using positive exponents. So the 4 and 3 are positive. Let's look at a to the negative 3. If it's on top, when we flip it, it becomes where? On the bottom. So it's a to the 3rd. B is already positive, so it stays on top. And that is your answer. Let's look at number 6. Now be careful here, because what do we have? We have a power to a power. So let's do that first. So now we're going to do 3 to the negative 2. I'm just going to write it out in exponent terms first. Then we're going to look at our x. Multiply power by a power. Negative 2 times the negative 2 gives me what? Positive 4. Let's do the y's. 3 times negative 2. Negative 6. Over, what you still got to do the bottom. So 6 to the negative 2. And then z to the negative 2, because they both have exponents of 1. Now, let's get rid of these two exponents. 3 to the negative 2. If it's a negative exponent, where are we going to move it? We're going to flip it, so it's going to become at the bottom with positive exponent. Now, with the 6 to the negative 2, it's already on the bottom, so what's going to happen when we flip it? Right, it's going to go to the top and become positive. The x is already positive. Where's the y to the negative 6 going to go? Right, to the bottom, become positive. What about z to the negative 2? It's really 1 over z, so if we flip it, it becomes z with a positive exponent. Now let's simplify or evaluate what we can. 6 squared is 36. These are all positive exponents, so they're going to stay. 3 squared is 9. Y to the 6. Is there anything else that we can still simplify? Yes, 36 divided by 9, which is 4. So it's 4x to the 4th, z squared, over y to the 6. Good. Now let's look at fractional exponents. The rule. If you have x and then m over n as a fraction, your rule is n is your root, m is your exponent, your power. The power that goes underneath, and n is your root. So think of it this way. Here's your fraction, m over n. Think of the line as your ground. So n is your root. M is above the ground, so it can see the sun, so it gets power from the sun. So think of it that way. N is your root. It's underground. So let's look at 16 to the 1/2. When we rewrite this, it's square root. 16 goes underneath. Now what is 2? 2 is your root. 1 is your power. Now when we did square roots, we're going to look at the square root of 16 is the same as the square root with a 2 out front. You just don't see the 2 there. So it's the same thing. So if I was to rewrite this, it's just square root of 16, which is 4. You're not going to see the 2 out front. So let's look at number 2. What is our root? 3. So now we're doing the cube root of 8 to the first power. Well, 8 to the first power is just 8, and we have to do the cube root. So what times itself 3 times is going to give me 8. You can also type it in on your calculator, cube root of 8. So 2 times 2 times 2 gives me 8, so that is your answer. All right, let's look at number 3. Now here we have to be careful because we have a negative exponent. What did I tell you to do with negative exponents? They go where? Right, we flip them, reciprocal. So it's 25 to the 1/3. Now we're going to look at this and get rid of the fractional exponent. So 1 stays on top. Which one is our root? The 3. Then it's 125 to the first power, which is 125. So it's 1 over, now what's the cube root of 125? Your calculators will do that. They just won't do when you put letters in there. So what number times itself 3 times is going to give me 125? 5. And that is your answer. So let's look at number 4. Now we have variables in here, but what do we have? We have power to a power. So we can just multiply. So y to the what? What is 3 times 1/3? Right, 1. So y to the 1, or you can just leave it as y. Now do x. Negative 6 times 1/3 gives you what? Negative 2. Now rewrite it using positive exponents. The y is positive, so it stays on top. And then the x goes to the bottom with a positive exponent. Now you could have done it doing the cube root also, and then simplifying. But when you have power to a power, just multiply through. All right, now we're going to write as powers with positive exponents. So now we're going to reverse it. We're going to take what they give us and write it with a exponent. So 9 is our base. And then our fraction, 3 is our power, so it goes on top, and 4 is our root, so it's underground. So it's 9 to the 3/4, and it's a positive exponent. So let's look at number 6. We have underneath 36, x to the 5th, y to the 4th. Now we're going to do it all to the exponent because it's all underneath. So what's my exponent? All of this to the first power. Now what number's out here if there's nothing there? Right, a 2. And then you can simplify it down. What is 36 to the half power? Which is the same as what? Square root of 36. Right, which is 6. And then x to the, multiply 5 times 1/2 is 5/2. And 4 times 1/2, which is 2. And you're going to leave it with positive exponents. All right. Now I'm going to give you 4 to practice. Pause the video, try them, but I want you to turn back on the video and check your answers. Don't come in with wrong answers. Check them. I do want you to try them, but then check them. Go ahead.